오세요.
아니, 너 아직 안 녹았다.
됐나요?
Glasses now.
Go check.
We are now looking up at the Hall of Supreme Harmony, majestically placed on a three-tiered terrace, each tier surrounded by a balustrade of white marble. Before we climb the steps, glance over just a moment to the side of the staircase to the balustrade on the first level. There, sticking out from the foot of each column, is a dragon's head. They are actually drains, and on a rainy day, the water from the terraces spouts from the mouths of some 1,100 dragons, cascading down layer upon layer, creating a spectacular sight, an imperial solution to an everyday problem. This magnificent building was the center of all court activities during the Ming and Qing dynasties. It was here that grand ceremonies were held for the emperor's enthronement, royal weddings, imperial birthdays, and the celebration of New Year's Day. As we imagine the scene some 100 years ago on the very first day of the Chinese New Year, feel free to walk about the terrace while I talk. The sun has just risen. Over on each side of the terrace is a tall bronze crane and a large tortoise. The fragrant smoke of the smouldering incense drifts gently from the mouths of these animals, which both were traditionally considered signs of good luck, symbols of the long life of the emperor and the peace and glory of the empire. To the east, in the corner of the terrace, is a stone sundial. It represents the emperor's role as protector of farming and agricultural production. And in the opposite corner, to the west, is a standard grain measure, housed inside a stone pavilion. It, too, symbolizes good times and bumper harvests. The roofs of the Forbidden City are marvelous. So why don't we start here at the Hall of Preserving Harmony, number 7, with a look at its roof. It's in the majestic style that was used only on buildings of the highest rank. As you can see, the lower level of the roof, or second eave, echoes the gentle slope of the upper one, and also makes a kind of veranda that is supported by pillars. Then, running along the very top of the building is a long horizontal ridge, and at each end of the ridge are dragon-like creatures facing one another with their mouths wide open. There were several different kinds of dragons in ancient China, and this type was believed to live in water and be able to ward off fires caused by lightning. The lightning rods rising up from the roof were only installed recently. You may also be curious about the parade of little animals on the corners of the eaves. The Chinese believed the roofs were vulnerable to lightning at the corners, and so these processions of creatures, dragons, phoenixes, lions, winged horses, seahorses, brought good luck to the building and protected it. And they are led always by a man on a hen. One theory about this man on a hen is that he was a tyrannical prince of the Han dynasty who was hanged from the end of a roof beam. So he's there as a warning against threats to imperial power. Starting in 17... This small building stands between the two largest palaces of the inner court, so it is called the Hall of Union and Peace. It connects the palace of the emperor, the heavenly palace, to the residence of the empress ahead, the earthly palace. The empress held her birthday celebrations in these small buildings, and the royal concubines and sons of the emperor came here to congratulate her. Also, this was where the empress led the annual ceremony to honor the agricultural activities of the people. Just as the emperor was the protector of farming, she was the guardian of the ancient art of producing and weaving silk, and she would feed the first mulberry leaves of the year to silkworms brought to this small hall for the festival. If you look up, outside over the doorway you can see several images of the imperial dragon painted in brilliant gold against a blue background. But now, alongside the dragon motif on the bright green panels, there's a beautiful exotic bird with outstretched wings. It is the phoenix, a mythical creature second only to the dragon, symbolizing peace, joy, and the majesty of the empress.
故宫又称影城，原是明清两代的皇宫。
Qianlong, the longest reigning emperor of the Qing dynasty, once wrote, "Every ruler, when he has returned from audience and has finished his public duties, must have a garden in which he may stroll, look around, and relax his heart." And this was the place where the emperors came to escape and unwind. Walking among the fantastic rocks and trees, they might simply contemplate the wonder and beauty of nature, or rest in one of the many pavilions, composing poetry or meditating. Just like the buildings and squares of the imperial court, here the pathways and architectural elements are laid out in a formal, symmetrical design. But then the strange, irregular rocks, pock-marked from centuries of water flowing over them, and the little surprises that one comes upon here and there, water, flowers, birds, balance the order of the garden. You may want to... In Chinese, the word for landscape is literally mountains and water, and the deep caves and precipitous cliffs of this man-made hill, covered with plants and artificial streams, reminded the emperor and his court of their native countryside outside the walls of the city. Every year the emperor and empress climbed up this hill to celebrate the double ninth festival, which falls on the 9th day of the 9th month. It is a time when, still today, people relax by ascending hills to enjoy the autumn view. And from the pavilion, the emperor and empress could see for miles out over the Forbidden City and beyond Beijing to the western hills. Probably, for just a moment, their thoughts took flight, transporting them from the royal palace to quieter places and a simpler life. For sometimes, being the exalted son of heaven, glamorous as it might have appeared, was an extraordinarily demanding lot. I'd like to thank you for joining me today, and to thank the Palace Museum for making our tour possible. I personally have enjoyed it immensely, and hope you have as well.
Deep within the Forbidden City lies the Forbidden Telephone.